Man, I hope I didn't miss anything big on the VT Scoop message boards this weekend. Anyway, as we're coming to you here live for another edition of Colby's Corner from the draws of Doak Campbell Stadium. Who knows? All you had to do was go 10 hours south on I-85 to finally get some strong Wi-Fi. As we're back here on Colby's Corner, Virginia Tech following their loss on the road to Florida State by a final score of 34-14. We'll talk about some instant takeaways from the game, thoughts after the press conference, and also obviously the impending news, the massive swell that's overtaken the program for the last month. James Franklin and Virginia Tech, and some of the stuff that's trickled out today throughout the weekend. We'll touch on all that, get everyone out of here around midnight or as long as it goes. Appreciate everyone jumping in here. Reiterate at the start of every show, but cannot thank everyone enough for getting this off the ground and all the support. It's been a ton of fun trying to increase the quality and get better and better. So I appreciate all the support. I got a lot of great feedback from everyone trying to implement the show. So, well, let's keep it rolling. But jumping right into things, obviously coming straight off the loss, Virginia Tech 34-14 versus Florida State. And I think the biggest takeaway is the offense still remains one-dimensional. Virginia Tech rushed for 238 yards on 41 carries, which is solid. Marcellus Hawkins flash again, 12 carries, 101 yards, man. You look at that, 8.4 yards per carry. I think that's 4 out of his last 6 games that Marcellus Hawkins has rushed for 8+ yards per carry. When you talk about a guy coming up from the D2 level, what a job by the scouting department in the offseason to identify him as a top target at that running back position and to move and acquire him. I know there was a lot made about, obviously, other running back targets specifically, but, I mean, they've been a force. Now, we talked to Montgomery afterwards in the press conference, and they definitely haven't had that balance, obviously, and we'll get into that. When you see Kyron Drones finish 10 of 18, 1 interception, 125 yards, and a touchdown, long of 36 yards. Obviously, the interception came on that initial play to Aiden Green where he slipped. If Aiden Green slips, is it still a touchdown? Or, excuse me, is it still an interception? I'm not sure. Talking to guys after, a lot of issues with the field, or people saying there was a lot of issues on the field. If you turned it on, you could see, like all you had to do was watch the game and you saw like, okay, these guys not wearing long enough studs in the cleats, but I mean, kind of across the board, even talking to people just in passing, sounds like the field was a little bit of an issue. So, I mean, obviously that interception, but just an overall sort of inability to move the ball down the field effectively, which has plagued Virginia Tech now for a little while when you can establish the ground game but you just can't really go like that. It was in my game prediction, which I almost forgot to write on the way down, driving down 38. Matei Sis there on Friday was like, Kolby, get your game prediction in. And it kind of played out exactly like that. I think Virginia Tech is going to be able to stay in the game and be able to run with Florida State and develop that. But when they get behind, they're not going to be able to pass their way out of it. And they just sort of couldn't stay in that race. Tommy Castellanos kept making plays. Defense didn't get a lot of pressure on him, and the Virginia Tech offense just couldn't punch back. Now, sticking with the running game, though, I think it's really important to highlight Jeff Overton Jr. Any opportunity, any of the VT Scoop crew, it seems like, can come on and highlight the former Virginia Gatorade Player of the Year is a great opportunity to do so. And I know it's limited opportunities, but you can see the flashes. This is a guy that rolled up to bowl prep, obviously had a completely unfortunate ACL injury, which set him back months. For him to even be suited up at this point is amazing, let alone had 3 carries a night for 15 yards. And then there's the big play. You can check it out over on my X account at Kolby_Crawford, or I'm sure there will be highlights of it. But had the 1 catch for 36 yards to get him down to the 4 or 5 yard line, and then Kyron punches that in. But what an incredible, like, you can see the sparks. You saw it in high school at Highland Springs. You saw it in practice, and you heard the flashes. You knew what the type of athlete. But now for him to roll it out there in front of the fans in that first year coming off the injury is a great sign. Great sign. Obviously, top of the board priority. When you want to talk about this next regime coming in, that is a circle target, someone you can really build an offense around, has elite top line speed, can make guys miss, dynamic at catching the ball out of the backfield. Had another one that Kyron sort of threw him, and it was out of bounds. I don't even know if the TV caught it, tipped up and caught it back with one hand. He knew he was out of bounds, but just really dynamic athlete. Like when you go back to his high school days, I think he had 7 interceptions his senior year playing both sides of the ball. Was the best athlete on the field by far. Obviously, Gatorade Player of the Year. Not to make this a Jeff Overton show, but definitely deserves some recognition. But also, talking about that passing game, if you take out guys named Aiden Green, Cam Selden, and Jeff Overton, you got, doing some math, it looks like 28 passing yards. If you take out those three, it looks like Virginia Tech, or was around in that range, just trying to do some quick math, like 28-ish passing yards. So obviously, it just not efficient enough to win against a talented Florida State team. I know their season's gone the way it has. They're at 5-5, not at expectations. You can talk about the coach on the other sidelines, the boos you hear walking around before the game and hearing where fans are at. But still, it's a talented team, and you have to execute, and they just didn't. So, especially in the passing game. And I think it's also to note, if we're going to stick on true freshman, Snick Peterkin got his first catch of his collegiate career, one reception for 5 yards, and yeah, not much going else. Obviously, Aiden Green had that touchdown catch, and I think that slip was really big to set the tone. A couple missed field goals there early. No punts in the game, which was really, really quirky. Neither team punted, so that was just sort of a statistical anomaly. Felt like almost a Army-Navy game where it's just back and forth, runs. Because even there early, Florida State didn't establish much, and they didn't have a ton of like big cat buster plays through the air. I highlighted it in my 5 instant takeaways over on VT Scoop, but they did allow obviously that big 50-plus, or I think it was a 50-yard reception to Deuce Robinson in the second half, and that sort of busted things open. It was really big when I think Thomas Williams jumped off sides on the field goal. It looked like he almost got back on sides, but they still called it that he wasn't able to get back on side. So now you take 3 points, and then they go for it on fourth down, they convert, and they get a touchdown on that drive. It becomes, a 1-score game into a 2-score game from 3 points to 7 points. There were just a couple big inflection points. It seemed like Virginia Tech was always on the tough end of it. Another thing that I think is really important, Virginia Tech was super efficient on third down, 8-12. Not there, but penalties. Florida State had 1 penalty for 5 yards. Virginia Tech had 8 penalties for 59 yards, which ties just into some of that discipline. You saw missed open field tackles. Joe Reddish with the one, I believe, on Deuce Robinson as well, that led to a big touchdown, had him pretty much wrapped up, and he was able to break away. Saw some bad angles. The motions and misdirections kind of had him scrambling. Virginia Tech's now allowed 28-plus points in 4 straight games. It's just not exactly a winning recipe. You want to talk about another, like, maybe inflection point specifically in the game today? I think some of that management right at the half, when you're right around midfield and there wasn't exactly urgency in the offensive tempo, you had a couple timeouts in your pocket, and then you end up settling. I know I saw people lobbying for John Love to go kick a 60-yarder. I know John Love has been obviously one of the most accurate collegiate football kickers of all time, and Virginia Tech fans have almost become accustomed to him just being automatic. But he did miss a 54-yarder, and from our perspective in the press box, it was well short, honestly. I don't know if the field conditions, but I mean, a 60-yard field goal is a very long field goal. But I think the frustration was maybe you could have given yourself more opportunities prior to that last-second heave with some more strategic timeout usage. So I think that was another inflection point. And I think just overall, circling it up, you just didn't get enough pressure on Tommy Castellanos. Obviously, Virginia Tech was very effective against him last year when he was at Boston College, but they couldn't get it together. I don't think didn't get sacked. And, obviously very dynamic when he gets out of the pocket on the design runs. And then, you're accounting for that, and was able to hit a couple big plays and stay in rhythm, stay in flow. 12 of 24, like 50% completion percentage, but didn't turn the ball over, and a touchdown. They needed to win the game by 20-plus points. So I think overall, things to work on for Virginia Tech. Obviously now officially, well, I guess not officially eliminated from bowl contention if you can get in at 5-7, but you're not going to get that 6-game threshold. So you got Miami at home, which could be a really big weekend potentially. You're all good. Which could be a really big weekend potentially, obviously, with the news coming. And then obviously you go to Virginia at home, and you got the Commonwealth Cup on the line, and a lot of moving parts with that. So that's most of the updates from the game. Now, if you want to talk about from the morning, and we'll get into some questions here too. So if you have questions, make sure to dump it in the live chat. Appreciate everyone jumping in here. We really are in the draws of Doak Campbell Stadium. Got people coming in and out, but we'll have maybe first live audience for Kolby's Corner. But obviously the news in the morning coming out that James Franklin and Virginia Tech are in early discussions with, or in early talks together. If you've been following the work of Evan and others on vtscoop.com, obviously you've been well prepared and ahead of this. It's funny because obviously as things start shifting and timelines keep going and dragging on, people get rightfully a little tight, a little tense. Getting calls yesterday. I know some people saw I was on the beach, like, "Where's Colby? Where's Colby?" It's like all I had to do was get out of town for things to start going because I'm on the beach fielding calls from different recruits or recruits' parents or people of interest, and it's like, man, it's all Arkansas. Like, what are you talking about? What's happening? What's happening? And then, you know, within 3 seconds, when the light switches, you have it from every national reporter, pretty much stating exactly what's been covered on the site in less detail. Which, let alone uh, if you weren't spending your Friday night on vtscoop.com, you missed out. You missed out. If you just cut on a movie or you went out to nice dinner, it was a once in a lifetime moment just watching it from the back. But yeah, so obviously with the news of that, typically news like that doesn't come out unless there's, something happening imminently. And I know I've said that and come on the show, and people in my circle are like, all right, look, we're gonna have to ban that word imminently from being used pretty soon for the way it's already been thrown out there. But a lot of positive signs obviously working for Virginia Tech and James Franklin. It's just, kind of semantics at this point is what it comes down to. But until you hear it from that one side, nothing's really officially in the bank. A lot of sounds like lawyers and legalese that goes way above my head. Obviously, when you're dealing with a contract of that magnitude, you don't have to look far. You can look to Florida State and know when you sign on the dotted line for something like that, um, there can potentially be a lot of repercussions. So you got to make sure all your ducks in a row, which is rightfully so. I know it can get frustrating as things have dragged on, but it was always sort of in this window, eyeing up that November 22nd weekend for Miami. And if you could actually utilize that weekend to get a jump start, that would be the biggest icing on the cake for James Franklin and potentially whoever else would be whatever building towards that. So obviously nothing completely official, but is so much positive momentum that way. Uh, I know people are sleeping a lot easier, almost acting as the conception is done. And now I think a lot of people's fears or thoughts have already been, you know, quieted by seeing it when you cut on your morning game day and you're seeing a lot of the same reporting. It's not just semantics or speculation as a lot of people have been throwing at me. But like I said, vtscoop.com up until you get that breaking news is going to be the place to be. After you get that breaking news, there's going to be so much coming out, so much content coming out, staffing, high school signing day, transfer portal. There's going to be absolutely no better place to be than vtscoop.com as this all unfolds. But yeah, with that, jump into some live chat questions. Appreciate everyone tuning in here. Got the Wi-Fi fixed, and we're underneath Dope Campbell Stadium. I can't believe it. We used to pray for times like this. But yeah, dump any questions in the live chat. We'll get to those. And yeah, we'll get out of here however long it takes. But yeah, appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. Got USMC Scout Sniper 27. Appreciate you tuning in and enjoy the Panhandle, big dog. Yes, sir. You know me. Anytime we can go to the Boss Man and eke out a little long weekend. I know there's no off season, but you got, just like the Virginia Tech offense, you got to find balance in life. And yeah, been a good weekend. Gonna be cutting back across the state here, and who knows, might have to race back to Blacksburg here soon. So we'll see. But appreciate the comment. The Wi-Fi is amazing. Ashton, ride or die, man. Always in here. We're moving on up. We'll take it. Sideline shenanigans. Appreciate it. Only trying to get better. But yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Got at Lil Flip. Jeff to be on the roster next year. Talking about Jeff Overton. I think you got to feel pretty confident with that. Obviously, has a good relationship with, and like I said, until it's in writing, until the fat lady sings, I think enough people have fatigue and seen these things fall through. But if you're operating under the assumption that James Franklin is going to be the next head coach, there's obviously a good relationship there. And that's someone you can really build an offense around. I honestly think if you want to be really put on that tinfoil hat, and this is more speculation, but also tied to some conversations you've had, not rushing Jeff back, but some of the reasons they were playing Jeff in some of those sets, let alone his talent and ability. Like, you've seen it against good quality teams. Like, he's the ability to be out there. But I know people are like, why? You got Stewart and Hawkins playing good ball. I think a little bit of that, if you want to talk about even the whole ordeal at the airport, and, just putting people on the plane to maybe persuade and say, make people feel better. There's a lot of chess pieces being moved. Rolling Jeff out there in that Louisville game was sort of maybe a little bit of eye candy, or just like a sneak peek of, hey, look at this. We got a couple horses here. Potential coach, hey, look at what we got. So, like I said, a little bit of that speculation based on one sort of offhand conversation. But, if you want to put the tinfoil hat on, that's just some food for thought. Appreciate the comment. Jacob Jenkins, have I missed a JF update? James Franklin update? Really no crazy update from Friday night. Virginia Tech's obviously moved into a pretty dominant position in that search. I know obviously it's still sort of waiting, but the term sheet is what it is, and negotiations have been done. It sounds like the legal review of the buyout and everything is all in order. It's now just signing the dotted line is what it comes down to. I think you'll have resolution on that here relatively soon. I think obviously with the reports, people can understand which way that's going. What a roundabout way. I know people, obviously with all the Arkansas smoke coming in, I think a lot of that can be disfounded. I know people think still waiting on Florida State and different things. I think if you're in Virginia Tech or a Virginia Tech fan or stakeholder, you got to be feeling pretty good. So that's sort of the update at this point. Really nothing new. If you've been up to date on vtscoop.com, which I know is difficult, like 130 pages if you got work, wife, or kids or family or anything else going on in life, but it'll all be over soon until signing day, until transfer portal, until the coaching search. So make sure to go sign up over there. There really is no better place to be. So get to some of these comments. Make sure to dump comments in the live chat. Appreciate all the support, everyone. Subscribe to the channel. Share the show with a friend. It's been so fun. Just even walking around the tailgate down here, met a couple people who watched the show. Shout out to y'all. VT is Ashton again. VT is money on the outside run game. Passing wise, their concepts take a bit to develop, and I think it would be cool to use more spacing concepts and even more naked like they've put in the last few games. Yeah, I think when you look at the passing game and people, you walk on eggshells a little bit just with some of the info and with everything, like just different reporting of things. I hope you extend the same grace to others. It's a tough, delicate line. I'll just say that, and deal with everything with grace and a grain of salt. But there have been definitely plays, and there's a couple plays if you throw up on the all 22 that there are guys running open and the ball's just not getting delivered on time, and it'll lead to a rollout, scramble, a couple yards. But I mean, not even like half the videos that I took from the press box, but there are routes where guys are running open and the ball's just not being delivered on time. And that can be extremely frustrating. Obviously, the news Donovan Green, no longer with the football program. You can sort of put a couple things together with other guys and a growing little sense of frustration in that element of the offense. So I don't know how workable that is with the personnel that's in at that position. I don't know if you make a change, obviously, with the weeks coming up. People are definitely going to draw dotted lines back to Pop Watson's performance against UVA last year. It'll be really interesting to see. Obviously, that'll be a massive point of contention next year, and whoever the new staff brings into that position, because as important as a head coach is, I've tried to reiterate that whatever you can get the best head coach ever, it doesn't matter if you don't get a good staff. And in this day and age, you have to have a good quarterback. You can't win without a good quarterback if you look at all the contenders. So it's really important. Kind of went off topic, but yeah, good question. This is a really great question. Cliff Notes, I think someone posted a YouTube video. I mean, there's a song out there. The legend grows. Just, I mean, everything. Briefly summarize what happened last night for those who have a life on Friday nights. Summarize a movie encapsulated in 120 pages. Plane watching season, coaches on the move, rabid fan base that is showing their true colors and how bad it seems they want winning football back in Blacksburg, Virginia. There was a plane on the move to State College, obviously, that had been tracked by rabid fans from one, obviously, very prominent board member, committee member, and, passengers on the plane were maybe in question. And when the plane touched back down from State College to Blacksburg, Virginia, one legendary Virginia Tech defensive coordinator stepped off the plane, and big Hokie guy 12, the legend Groves, was there to greet him, and the board was up in arms. Absolute cinema. Just, I mean, I don't like. I'm almost at a loss for words, and that's hard to do. But what a scene that was. So I would highly recommend vtscoop.com. There are more people joining every day, and there's going to be a lot more coming out even once this coaching search is finalized here, probably in the next couple days. And I know that's torture. It's always been the next couple days, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, crazy night on Friday. I would highly recommend going over there. You got to go catch up on all that. I don't think you'll regret it for clicking through all those pages. Don't let me butcher this. Pache Tepez, whatever. How quickly do you think the news will come out? I think it'll be relatively soon once things are buttoned up, because I think you got to be looking at this weekend as a really, really massive opportunity for the future staff to get a big jump start on competition for next year, and obviously developing next year's roster. A lot of guys haven't taken OVs. There's going to be a ton of news this week. So good thing Evan G. Watkins has got me covered. Doctor's note for all my tests. If any professors are watching this, we're all clear. So don't even worry about it. We'll be locked in on vtscoop.com, bringing you all the insight, but I would make sure to stay tuned in over there, because I would expect it to come out rather soon. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but maybe the timelines haven't been exactly with it, but pretty much every other element of the reporting has been right there. So still stand pretty firm on that. So Jack, we got Jack in here saying, why do I keep seeing the date is going to be the 17th in regards to band notifications and a huge – see, that is another great message board. There really is no community like vtscoop.com. It's growing exponentially, expanding networks, different people meeting each other. Hey, I didn't even know you were on the board. So the catering date obviously leaked out there. And, when you go through coaches search, there's a friend of a friend of a friend told me, Bridge Club, Blacksburg Bridge Club Facebook group. I mean, there's so many different things that will live in my brain forever that will provide me no real societal value, but I mean, interpersonal value off the charts with different members of the board that I meet. But so allegedly there's been a big catering event or whatever set up for the 17th. Now, I don't know if that's a week of the 17th, or it very well could be that Monday. But when you look at different people, the board obviously has their meeting up there in Alexandria, Virginia. They're on the 17th, the Board of Visitors. So I'm not sure if you're going to make that big announcement or in-person announcement when a lot of obviously big stakeholders are not present in Blacksburg. So I think that's just something to keep in mind, but we'll see on that. Good question. What is the positive momentum that is different in these recent days? Sounds like everything's all buttoned up on the Penn State side. Obviously, that was a big holdup, and now it's just pretty much everything's out there. And sounds like the contract's pretty much been slid across the table, and things are all but done. So, like, it sounds like it's been building that way. There's been a couple big roadblocks, and now it feels like all those roadblocks are out of the way. So, I think that's positive momentum. That, like, if you want to say you're inside the 5, you're on the quarter-inch line, and you just got to half the distance to the goal penalty. So. Jacob, appreciate it, man. Got Beamer is king in here. Is the 17th still a day to look forward to? I think the 17th, I mean, like, I'm not going to come on here. I mean, I know last live stream, I was lagging out, and I don't know, someone was calling me a false prophet or whatever. Like, it's been building this way. Now, there's been a couple of roadblocks along the way. It could very well be tomorrow on Sunday. Once it came out this morning on game day that it was worded that way, you didn't think it was going to come out later in the afternoon and deter attention away from the players, but it very well could be. Hearing a lot of different things. Don't want to mislead anyone with timelines. I think this week is going to be a very, very busy week. Now, regarding to the second part of that question, FSU fans are very disdained. Honestly, it's a lot. It's a little bit of apathy where, just walking around there like Norvell, Coach Norvell is a really, really nice guy, but he's just not cutting as a ball coach here. They're frustrated because they want to go out and compete for a top target like Lane Kiffin or some of these other names. But obviously, they're in a tough financial spot, and obviously, they're not enthused by the results on the field, and they know what it has been. Obviously, you don't have to look too far in the rear view. Undefeated season, ACC championship, so they're definitely frustrated. Sideline shenanigans. James Franklin making an appearance in Castle Coliseum on Winston versus Bryant. That's something that's definitely could be on the table. I mean, there's a lot of rumors circulating. Obviously, when coaches are hired, especially in that window, you typically see them make an appearance. I don't think it will be as early as tomorrow or Sunday. I know some people are already buying up Sunday's tickets, which is still good. The greatest show on hardwood in Blacksburg right now, Neo Dallas and those guys. But I wouldn't make a trip to Blacksburg tomorrow to go see an unveiling at a basketball game. But I could see it later in the week or at another time. Obviously, get fan support behind you. It's always good. But I mean, I think if you're at that Miami game, if you want to make the trip up for that game, sounds like they're building that way to be a pretty big weekend for a litany of reasons. Ashton agreed. And it's really easy for me to say that sitting here right now. So, like I said, a little bit of grace is important in everything. Everything always looks good the day after, or when I'm sitting up 30,000 rows up and, hey, they're there. I fully agree. So, yeah, but at some point, you gotta take a different look or try and generate a spark. But I agree, the all 22, and when you watch things back, it's always so easy in 2020. But good point. This is a good question. I mean, I'm just pulling off the top of my head, recruiting wise. Any names to keep an eye on if we land him? I would keep an eye on guys in the 757 region. Like, there's a thread over on the board of some guys who have decommitted, like keep it Thomas Wilder, very followed closely. Some of those guys, and Matt Outen that went to Penn State, Richmond guy Davian Brown who was committed to Penn State. There's a couple other guys definitely to watch. I mean, I'm sure as we get into this, we'll have a much more thorough, in-depth piece over on btscoop.com. A lot of names are escaping me, but guys in the footprint region, obviously players at Penn State that have a great connection. Oh yeah, I mean, there's another player in Virginia, highly recruited player who was committed up there that is sort of waiting on to see where James Franklin goes, who, if things go the way they could potentially be a nice running mate there with Chambers. We'll leave it at that for now because there's a lot up in the air. We have Mayor Edis 6799. From your perspective inside the industry, why would Thamel report that Franklin to VT was in early stages? Everyone knows this is the worst kept secret. Even the game day host poked fun at it. And yeah, I feel like I've been coming on here and saying, yeah, it's the worst kept secret. Obviously, Virginia Tech is projecting this is their top target, 1A, putting all their chips in, going all after it. But the biggest thing is obviously the connection with the agent to James Franklin, Jimmy Sexton. And then as soon as that Thamel bomb comes out, did you notice Zenitz and Dellinger and everyone has their reports on this is where things are at. So once there's that first crack and it's okay, this is how we want the messaging to be out there, then, it starts to flow downstream. So obviously on vtscoop.com, you're getting that grassroots tied to the source connections, but there's a song and dance to this to release it to the public. So it's sort of that slow leakage for PR reasons. Still the art of the deal, I guess, as semantics are coming down to the wire. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but it all has to do with messaging. I don't know. Like I said, I've been over on 30A. People have been roasting me, rightfully so, on the message board. Got to keep me humble. Got to keep me in my place over there. Don't know who else got off the plane. Do you think there's any coincidence? Just James Franklin was at ODU Friday night. No, but obviously being from the great city of Norfolk, Virginia, I had web of spies there at the game, trying to keep me up to date on all the happenings that was going on. No, everything is targeted. Very, very targeted individual. Everything has a purpose. I don't think that was a coincidence. I think that was a really big smokescreen, obviously, for everyone. And if things have just keep coming out, there's a lot of text on the tack board that make a lot of sense. You can draw a lot of red lines connecting to each other. Some think the game day announcements was Sexton's leverage. I think it's Franklin/VT wanting attention for a few days. Yeah, I mean, at this point, obviously, as you've heard names trickle out, you don't leak it so directly, tightly to a school if you're really trying to leverage other options. Now, like if other options come up on the table, things can really flip on a dime. I don't see that really happening at this point, and I haven't. I feel like we've stayed pretty consistent on that. I think it is also trying to drag it out for a couple of days. I don't know everyone's motive involved. I think if you're Virginia Tech, and I've sort of kept this point, I think James Franklin will be the next head coach. I think you have to feel very positive that all the steps have been followed through, and now it's just that last icing on the cake in these last few hours, few days. But I mean, everything's sort of been laid out there. Good question here. Probably Run Ruby. Does Franklin hire his GM or an assistant/coordinator first, in your opinion? I think he probably hires his GM. And I think without a doubt, you have to look to Andy Frank, someone as his right-hand guy, to maybe slot right into that role. But I think his GM probably comes first, and then you can start looking to the assistant pool. Got Potch back in here. Something wrong with Pop. I feel like he should have entered the game many times this season. No, nothing going on with him. Just sort of still just waiting on that opportunity. Obviously taking backup reps. Nothing's wrong, but yeah, good question. I'm presuming this is the man, the myth, the legend right here, Big Hokie 12 in here. Appreciate you, my guy. We got to link up. Big Hokie got 12. I don't want to misquote you. This is a good question. If you have any more, dump them in the live chat. If not, we'll be jumping off here soon. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Appreciate all the support. It's been a ton of fun. Crazy ride over on VTScoop.com is going to stay and get even crazier here in the coming months as they shape up for the 2026 season. From Tyler Harvey, how many of the Penn State current players do you think James Franklin wants or potentially wants? What do you see our current class rank could rise with current high school prospects? That's a good question. How many does he want? How many could he take? Like I could realistically see close to 30-ish players. I could see to that number. Is it going to be that money? I'm not sure. I think as you get in the building and you have some of these exit conversations with current players from Penn State, that number could shift. I could see it up to that number. And then regarding high school class, it's a really great question. Right now, Virginia Tech sits at 119th overall. 119th. How many FBS teams are there? 130 something? So Virginia Tech is 119th in the class of 2026 recruits. That's pretty wild. I would expect that number to jump, if you add a couple of those decommitments. For the 2026 class, I think you could get back into that 40, 50 range maybe with that estimated timeline. But there's a bunch of 27 guys that are very, very, very aggressively excited and monitoring the situation. Monitoring and potentially have even, had early discussions with said coaching staff. Well, not staff, but obviously James Franklin. So, there's a lot to play out. There's been a lot of breadcrumbs and different things coming out. But, obviously I think you'd heavily expect not only with the investment into NIL and different things to see an uptick in recruiting, but also just acumen in recruiting from head coach and staffing standpoint. This is going to be fine. Like, obviously, people were making this point on the board that Franklin went to the ODU game to pick up Ronnie as his possible offensive coordinator. I'm not so sure it's that. Obviously, when you look at pay for Ricky Ronnie at Old Dominion as a head coach versus what you could potentially make as an OC at Virginia Tech, it's just like, are you going to take that step from being a big whistle, coming off a very successful season and go to Virginia Tech. Like, I could see it. I'm not so sure that was the point of the trip. I think he was there supporting two guys from his tree. Also, making headway in the Tidewater region, which was really big. I don't think that was the main antithesis of the trip, but it could happen. Everything's on the table. All right, a couple more fun ones and we'll head out of here. Appreciate everyone jumping in here. It's been, actually, can't even put the words. Got the Wi-Fi fixed, so we can put that to words. So now you can actually hear me. But thank you so much for the support. It's been amazing. Sideline shenanigans, Islam Makshab or Jack Dillon. I think that tells you pretty right there. I'm not a big UFC fan. I know Makhachev's like a hammer. The guy is a beast. I wouldn't want to go face off against him. So I'm taking him. But hopefully it's a good card. I saw there was some like crazy fight in the crowd or something. But yeah. Got Austin 5422 in here. Appreciate the comment. Does the Stamel report mean something? It feels like he usually isn't wrong. Oh, it 100% means something. I know people like to give each other a hard time over on the message board of you got to read between the lines. And sometimes I'm not the best at it because, you can't always leave things in plain writing. You have to have people maybe make that next step. And sometimes when people are obviously in high stress situations, things get lost along the way. So, and 100% means something. I wouldn't read too much into it. I would see James Franklin and Virginia Tech on the screen together and know that's very positive for if you're a Virginia Tech shareholder or you have an investment in wanting James Franklin to end up at Virginia Tech, like that, you don't just put that out there willy nilly. So yeah, it 100% means something. Appreciate everyone saying thanks. Have a safe trip back. Means a ton. Did Franklin meet Maury High School coach McCain when he was in Norfolk? I'm not sure on this trip. Actually, if you want some crazy Kolby's Corner inside analysis, Coach McCain was actually, when he was a student teacher, he was my elementary school gym teacher. And I was just recounting with a good friend actually on my trip to Penn State last weekend because he was in that class with me, pulling up from three for a corner three and Coach McCain closing out and swatting it into the soccer field. So small piece of 757 recruiting lore there. But yeah, I don't know if they met. I haven't followed up. But Maury's got a pretty good team again. Got a couple more. Got Jack again. What was the point in sending Bud to State College last night? Sweeten the pot. Sort of extend that olive branch, make it really, really enticing. Like I said, a lot of that speculation you can only do with the info that you would see. But I think that's how you should take that. Not exactly sure. So beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Take it with what you will. Tyler, I saw you right here. My bad, man. Green, Woodson, Altuner. Who do you want to keep on the current roster? Who are the guys? I think you look at a Jeff Overton. You look at a Noah Chambers. You look at a Sheldon Robinson. You look at a Kyle Altuner. Now, obviously, Aiden Green brings a lot. Those are those guys. But like I said, it's not my evaluation. There's some guys that you can point to and see different things. But, you're playing a money game. Valuations and what needs you can fill from the transfer portal or guys you can bring from Penn State. I think there's a lot of layers to that. And for me to jump in and speak with definitiveness on that right now would, I don't know, probably not be right. I would agree, very dominant, extremely dominant. And they have been, could be well on their way to another state title this year. Obviously, you got Fred, JR, whatever, and Kendall down in South Carolina. You talk about Isaiah Bond on Indiana. Obviously, Dre Lambert Smith, I think now on the Chargers, what he did. Torrey Newkirk down at UNC. Just a lot of really great players. And, I'm always going to shout out Norfolk. Andrew, announcement time frame, I would say pretty confidently within the next couple days. And I know it's been like that, so rip your hair out, put the blame on me, but everything's been working that way. We've tried to give you the most detailed reporting and where things have been at. The timeline has obviously shifted. People are frustrated by that, but that's where it's at. See, people are saying this, does it benefit Franklin and Virginia Tech to not sign since they can legally tamper with recruits? Tampering with recruits is happening at the outset of the season, off-season, winter workouts, fall camp. If a team releases a good a workout video of a guy. They're getting contacted by agents all the time. Like this tampering, there is no real enforcement arm. It's happening widespread. Um, it's open lines of communication. So I don't think that will be the biggest hold. I know there's that running around. Maybe it is. I don't really think that is the holdup in this. Tyler, again, James Franklin had recruiting rankings from 2 to 18. What is the expectations with the new budget in NIL? What should we expect on an annual basis? I would think at least annual top 25. I think around that 20 to 30 range is where Virginia Tech could and should probably operate. At Penn State had some lean classes, but I mean, you could probably realistically see as high as on the high end, probably 15ish. But like even the last couple of years when it's like, oh, Brent Pry had this uptick in recruiting, where were you operating? In like the 44s? I mean, you think the SEC Big Ten have roughly 18 teams. Like, no, I think if you're operating really around that 25th through 20 through 30th baseline, I mean, you're just elevating your talent by so much, which is really important. Is more the new Oscar Smith. I mean, Oscar Smith's still Oscar Smith. They're still really dominant in that class 6 level. But I mean, yeah, Maury at the Region 5 level or Class 5 level, Region B, I guess, has been super dominant. I mean, it's the college factory. They incredibly coach. They play hard, and I think they just beat Granby by like 80 or whatever. Yeah, since the spring transfer portal is no longer around, what's stopping someone from de-enrolling from a school and enrolling in a different school after the spring semester? Now, I'm not exactly sure the process on that, but yeah, we'll have to check in on that. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the live stream. Appreciate all the support, everyone. It's meant an absolute ton here in the draws of Doak Campbell Stadium. But yeah, we'll see everyone again Monday night at the normal time of 8:30 or prior to that. If there's any news breaking, get to Andrew here. Confidence level, I would put it at 9.7 on the confidence scale. As we're signing out here from Doak Campbell Stadium, Virginia Tech loses 34-14 versus Florida State, but maybe some hope on the horizon. Appreciate everyone. Appreciate all the support. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. Enjoy some football tomorrow. Be kind to each other. Peace out and God bless.